Violetta, aka the Soul Weaver. That name's probably making every survivor's heart skip a beat right now, but for very different reasons than before the closing night event. I mean, come on, before this whole thing went down, most people saw Violetta as nothing more than a slightly cuter version of that giant spider from that one movie about the One Ring, and her appearance would make some survivors panic in fear. Then bam! Closing night happens, and suddenly this awkward, ugly spider pulls a Cinderella. Turns out Violetta's got layers, and now she's got folks actually sympathizing with her. No joke, one of my teammates literally danced around her during a match, basically offering themselves up instead of playing properly. Now, Violetta's fan club is so huge it probably makes Michiko and Mary green with envy. The twist is, not only is she drop-dead gorgeous after the reveal, but her backstory is tragic enough to tug at anyone's heartstrings. So, what's the deal? What makes Violetta so lovable all of a sudden? This is your broadcaster, Selmina, signing in. Alright, for all of you simping over Violetta, just admit it, out of all the reasons to adore this eight-legged queen, her face is probably at the top, isn't it? The devs gave her that glow-up look that could rival Mary or Michiko, and y'all fell for it. Let's be honest, if she looked like, I don't know, Hester, perhaps? Would anyone still simp? Yeah, didn't think so. Her face is the reason she's so lovable. That pitiful yet endearing look, it's like a premium pass to your sympathy. Heck, people are even out here willingly offering their souls to her. When I played closing night, I went from pitying her to full-blown sympathy real quick. If I saw her abandoned on the street, I'd probably take her home. Before, remember, she's not a puppy. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, a pretty face isn't everything. What really seals the deal is her personality. Clumsy, timid, and insecure to a fault. Everyone's always cornering her, and of course, who doesn't feel bad for the underdog? Unless you're the bully, in which case, ew. I bet if someone started a Save Violetta from Bullies campaign, the fandom would sign it faster than she spins webs. The irony? In-game, if Mike, Murrow, Joker, and Margaretha, or Natalie, or Debbie, or whatever her name is this week, face Violetta, then it'd be Violetta's dishing it out. Credit to Murrow, however, because he's the lovable team dad who tried to save everyone from despair. He failed miserably, but at least he tried. A+ for effort, Murrow. Moving on, let's not forget her voice. Does anyone know her VA? Because whoever it is deserves an award. That shy, clumsy Cinderella energy? Absolutely nailed it. Cute face, lovable personality, adorable voice. Well, she's a simp magnet. So, if you want to be as popular as Violetta, have a beautiful face, and then try being clumsy with a cute voice, and get yourself bullied. How to get bullied, you ask? I don't know. Maybe pick a fight with the Yakuza or something. But seriously, what makes Violetta so lovable? Beautiful face, tragic personality, cute voice, and lastly, her heartbreaking backstory. She's a spider-themed Cinderella, but sadly, her ending feels more like the Matchstick Girls. For anyone does not know yet, I'll present to you her backstory in a nutshell. Violetta was born without arms or legs, a condition now known as tetra amelia syndrome, or TEDMS. Back in the Victorian era though, there wasn't a term for it, and people probably saw it more as a curse than a medical condition. Because of this, newborn Violetta was abandoned at a freak show. Luckily, the show's owner, Max, saw her as a chance to make money and decided to take her in and raise her. Despite growing up as part of a freak show, Violetta was happy with her life. Her act involved jumping around and mending rags, and audiences were fascinated by her unique appearance. At first, Max made good money off her performances, but over time, the novelty wore off. The crowds lost interest, and profits dried up. Desperate to stay relevant, Violetta tried new tricks, but nothing worked. Eventually, Max decided she was no longer worth keeping and sold her to another circus. It's unclear if this circus was Hullabaloo or not, as her later colleague didn't recognize the name. Either way, she eventually ended up at the Hullabaloo circus. At Hullabaloo, Violetta received prosthetic arms and legs, likely from Tracy Resnick or someone connected to her, which allowed her to move more freely and learn weaving. But even with her prosthetics, she wasn't a star performer and was deemed unprofitable. The circus owner, Bernard, suggested she calm her mind somewhere else, possibly a polite way of saying he wanted her gone. While Violetta was away, a bloody tragedy struck Hullabaloo, leaving nearly everyone dead except for a handful of survivors. With nowhere to return to, Violetta joined a traveling troupe to continue performing. Eventually, she was invited to Elitist Manor, where she reunited with former Hullabaloo performers like Mike Morton, Murrow, Natalie, and Joker. However, the manor had a dark secret, as it was a trap designed to pull its guests into deadly games. Due to a ploy by the manor owner, one of the game's participants plotted to kill Violetta. While she was rehearsing in the garden, this person lured her into the snowy forest, broke her prosthetic legs, and left her to die. Thankfully, Murrow found her just in time and saved her, but her reprieve didn't last long. The very next night, the same culprit struck again, leading Violetta into the snow once more. Whether due to hypothermia or drugs given by the killer, she began dreaming of her ultimate moment of glory, standing on stage with her arms and legs restored, basking in applause. Tragically, she was found dead the next morning. Thanks to her tragic story, gorgeous face, pitiable personality, and adorable voice, Violetta has become a fan favorite, with her popularity only growing. Some fans are even desperate for a survivor version of her, given her innocent background and heartbreaking death. But since the Hullabaloo story is already wrapped up, it's pretty unlikely we'll ever see that happen. Still, who knows? I mean, we've got Percy, who literally rose from the dead, right? Maybe Burke, the manor's genius, could whip up something to bring Violetta back as a survivor. Or, if not revived, she could appear as an illusion, like how Little Girl joined as a survivor. If enough fans demand it, and if Nettie smells profit, I bet there's always a chance. So, just like a popular song out there, never say never. We've talked about Violetta for a while now, and I think you understand why she became popular after the closing night. Now, let me take you on a journey to explore the real-life figure who inspired our beloved Violetta. As we know, NetEase often uses real historical figures when creating new characters. For example, Emily Dyer was inspired by Amelia Dyer, and Ganji may have been based on Colonel Ranjit Singh of the British Raj. In Violetta's case, her inspiration is Aloysia Wagner, also known as Violetta. Aloysia Wagner was born in Hemmelingen, Germany. Her exact birth year is unclear, with sources suggesting it was between 1905 and 1907. She came into the world under extraordinary circumstances, being born with tetra amelia syndrome. Tetra amelia syndrome, also known as tetrams, is a rare condition where a person is born without arms or legs. The term comes from tetra, meaning four, and amelia, meaning the absence of limbs. This condition affects not only physical appearance but can also impact internal organs and development, depending on its severity. The most noticeable symptom of tetrams is the complete absence of arms and legs. The syndrome often affects other parts of the body, including the spine, facial features, lungs, and vital organs, which can make life extremely challenging. In many cases, individuals may have difficulty breathing or sustaining life. This syndrome is typically genetic, though some sources suggest that maternal diabetes or alcohol consumption during pregnancy could contribute. While the condition exists, it is incredibly rare. Exact statistics are not well documented due to its rarity, but it occurs in only a tiny fraction of births worldwide. The online Mendelian Inheritance in Man database estimates it occurs in roughly 1 out of every 71,000 pregnancies. Returning to Aloysia Wagner, one can imagine that, given the limited medical knowledge of her time, her early years must have been full of immense physical and social challenges. This was partly true, as people with disabilities were often unable to lead normal lives. However, the 1920s also saw many individuals with disabilities defy the odds and achieve remarkable things. Aloysia Wagner began her career in the 1920s. A source mentions that she started performing at the age of 15, around 1920 or 1921. In March 1924, she moved from Germany to the United States, where she regularly performed in sideshows and freak shows. London Life magazine published at least 3 articles about her. In 1925, 1929, and 1940, they described her as having blonde hair and being stunningly beautiful. Unlike the gloomy Violetta in the game, the real-life Violetta was reportedly cheerful and happy, despite her circumstances. Both versions, however, share a similar trait, that both Violetta in game and in real life was unconcerned with their appearance. The 1929 article noted that she, like many others with disabilities, welcomed the curiosity and interest she inspired in audiences. And despite her disabilities, Aloysia was described as highly intelligent. During a 1940 performance in Seattle, she demonstrated her ability to draw, wash herself, weave thread, and even light a cigarette, all using her mouth. Remarkably, she had an assistant to support her, and was reportedly married, though this claim is disputed. German newspapers later reported that she died unmarried in Germany in 1973. Regardless, her performances in Seattle ended with applause, which is exactly the success and recognition Violetta in the game yearns for. The perfect final ending. Aloysia Wagner's life offers 2 key lessons. First, being born with imperfections does not mean leading an imperfect life. Aloysia is an example of how courage, determination, resilience, and acceptance can lead to happiness and fulfillment, even in difficult circumstances. Second, her story highlights the ending I wish for Violetta in the game. Not one of triumph where she receives the recognition and admiration she deserves, but one rooted in determination and courage to face the challenges before her. Just like Aloysia Wagner, who accepted her condition and bravely faced life, despite being born with tetra amelia syndrome. I wish for Violetta in the game to embrace the reality of her fading popularity and life with that fact. I hope she would find the strength to move forward, forgetting about being the center of the stage again, and learn that while life may seem imperfect, it can still hold beauty and meaning, just as Aloysia found her own version of perfection in her extraordinary life. This is mainly sentimental, as I use my own experience in wanting this kind of ending, so I don't really mind if others have different opinion of it. Regardless, I'll elaborate on this in the next section. We will forget everything and gain a new life. That's what Violetta says in the game. Yet, ironically, she doesn't forget her past as a star, nor does she truly gain a new life. She clings to the dream of being in the spotlight once more. Her reason for coming to the manor is rooted in this longing, a desperate hope to reclaim the fame she once had. Don't get me wrong, her ending is poetic, beautifully tragic even. She dreams of standing in the center of attention again, basking in applause, and she dies holding on to that vision. It mirrors The Little Match Girl by Hans Christian Andersen, where the girl dies in the cold, comforted by the warmth of her fleeting dreams. It's a touching concept. Who wouldn't want their final moments to be filled with beauty and the realization of a cherished dream? But life isn't always so kind. More often, our journeys are fraught with struggle, and along the way, we encounter a hard but necessary lesson: acceptance. This is where my perspective diverges. While Violetta's ending is bittersweet, it's still rooted in fantasy, not reality. The applause, the spotlight, it was all an illusion. If faced with the choice to drift into an eternal dream or wake up to a challenging reality, which would you choose? To live in fantasy or confront the imperfect truth? For me, Violetta's story would feel more profound if she chose to keep living. Imagine her realizing her glory days were behind her, coming to terms with the fact that the spotlight is no longer hers. Yet, in that acceptance, she finds a way to move forward, imperfect but resilient. Regrets would linger, sure, but regrets are part of life. They shape us, define us, and ultimately, make us who we are. Would you throw your life away because of regrets? For me, the answer is no. Despite every setback, every missed opportunity, every flaw, life remains precious. What I have now, shaped by those very regrets and struggles, is something I wouldn't trade for anything. In the end, I wish for a different path for Violetta. One where she learns to live without the stage, embracing who she is, and finding joy in the imperfect reality she has. It's a story of strength, not surrender, and of a life lived fully, even if far from perfect. But hey, that's just me, shaped by my own struggles with PTSD and living with imperfections. Feel free to disagree. I won't hold it against you. Well, I've rambled enough for now, but that's a wrap on my thoughts about Violetta. Still no lore video yet since Game 0 keeps throwing curveballs. And as for the other game, maybe I'll dive in once I've got my head wrapped around it. Oh, and speaking of lore, did you know Margaretha, or Natalie, or Debbie, or whoever she is based on a real-life figure too? Maybe I'll cover her story next time. That is, if I survive the endless quest of chasing cockroach origins, because, what a job it is! Anyway, this is your broadcaster, Selmina, signing out. Catch you later!